Fortunately for my husband and myself, we did not feel a lot of pressure from our family members to get pregnant. We have been married for 4 years, almost 5 years, and when we decided to start trying, our families were of course excited. When we started trying to have a baby, our parents were thrilled at the idea that we wanted to have children, that we wanted to expand our family, but we're very lucky in that we didn't have any pressure. We weren't being asked every time we went home to visit family, you know, when are you gonna have a baby, when are you gonna have a baby. My process of getting pregnant was fairly quick. In June, the end of June 2018, I had my IUD removed. It was my second IUD. I had had one IUD for 5 years, and then I had this one for 3 years. I never had any issues with my IUD, but looking back, maybe if I could change it, I would not have had one, just because I wasn't having a period during those almost 8 years, and because of that, I felt very disconnected with my body in that way. Now I feel that it has kind of made things a little more difficult as we are wanting to have a family. So I had my IUD taken out end of June 2018. We started actively trying at the end of August 2018. I wanted to give myself a little over a month to kind of level out, get used to the hormones that I was going to be getting. And of course, now I feel like maybe that wasn't long enough, but hindsight's 2020, I suppose. We conceived in October, and I found out that I was pregnant in November. What surprised me the most about my miscarriage was the fact that I had a miscarriage. Like I said before, I had no idea. Of course, no one expects to have a miscarriage, but it wasn't even on my radar. We weren't telling people because we wanted to tell our families in person, and we were planning to go home about a month after we found out that I was pregnant. So we were not telling people because we were waiting for the safe zone. We were not telling people because I wanted to tell our families before we told everyone else. I was very surprised that it happened. I think that was the most surprising thing to me, is just that I had a miscarriage. The most painful aspects, emotionally, I mean, that's just a list too long to talk about. There were so many emotionally painful aspects. I had this expectation that nothing would go wrong, so it was very painful for it not to work out. I was already thinking of how I was going to share this wonderful news with my parents and with my in-laws and my sister and my friends. I had already started planning those out. I'm just a planner by nature. That's just my way. And so I had started planning all of these things out. I had started thinking, just thinking it all the way through. And the letdown of, we only knew that we were pregnant for 2 weeks before we lost our baby. And the letdown of just the 2 weeks of your life that are the happiest you've ever felt and the most hopeful and excited that you've ever felt in your entire life. And then in the span of, an hour in the hospital, you're the lowest you've ever been. And that crash was very emotionally painful. Physically, the most pain was my legs. I had a lot of leg pain. It just felt like maybe restless leg syndrome, or maybe a lack of circulation. It felt like growing pains that I had as a child, but more extreme, more painful. And that was very unexpected to me, and that was something that, it hurt so bad. It was keeping me up at night. If my brain was allowing me to have sleep, my body was waking me up with leg pain. So that was a really painful part of it. During my miscarriage, I felt kind of disappointed in myself. I knew that I had been told that there was nothing that I did wrong, or there was really nothing that we could have done to prevent it. But it still felt like my body had failed me in a very exaggerated way. It felt like the one thing my body was supposed to do, it couldn't do. And that made me feel really down on myself and like a failure. I definitely felt sad. I felt depressed. I felt I wanted to just get in bed and not get out of bed for days. And because I was having to keep kind of like going out into the world and having to put on this mask and do this whole performance, like everything was fine, it just felt really disingenuous. It didn't feel like me, and that really affected my view of myself. That day in the emergency room, everyone was very calm and very quiet. I felt that they were giving us a lot of hope. I kept asking, am I having a miscarriage? Do you think I'm having a miscarriage? And of course, they didn't know, so they couldn't say yes or no. They were giving these very diplomatic answers when I would ask them, and I understand why, but because of the diplomacy of it, I was feeling hopeful. And so when, again, with that letdown, it was very jarring. Everyone was very kind to me. I have heard horror stories as I've spoken to more and more women about their miscarriage experience or their infant loss experience. And I know that there are situations where doctors are not very nice, but I was very fortunate that everyone was very kind to us, very gentle with us, very calm with us. My husband treated me with the most kindness, the most sympathy. I know that he was hurting too, but he really prioritized me in that day and in those days to follow and in the weeks and months to follow. I did not immediately tell a lot of my nearby friends, but I did share with them. I guess it was almost a week later, I shared with my Bible study group, and everyone just really wrapped their arms around me and just showed me so much love and kindness. I just felt very, very loved, very understood. It was great to have that support system. Of course, my husband was my number one support system, but to have a group of women who, even if they didn't walk that path with me, they were treating me so kindly and so in such an understanding way, that was really wonderful. In the days following my miscarriage, I did not feel great about myself. I had a lot of things planned for that week. So we lost our baby the week of Thanksgiving, and because we had a lot planned for that week, I felt like I had to put on a mask and just power through until the weekend, and then when the weekend rolled around, I could kind of wallow in my own feelings and my own emotions. And so because of that, I felt very not like myself, very disingenuous, because I was putting on a mask.